David Kim lives happily with his daughter, Margot, and his loving wife, Pam. The family are very active in uploading their happy memories as Margot grows up. Young Margot takes a liking towards piano and starts taking lessons, and David buys her a piano so she can practice with her mom every day. Unfortunately, the family finds out that Pam has lymphoma. The family does their best to fight it, but it doesn't work out and she has to be hospitalized. At the hospital, Margot is playing a sad melody on a toy piano, while her pale mom barely manages a faint smile. Despite all the effort, Pam passed away, leaving her daughter and husband to take a picture by themselves on Margot's first day of high school. One day, David is messaging his daughter. Margot says that she's gonna be running late at her bio study group and hangs up before David could ask about her finals. He messages her and she admits not having done so well but would still pass. David expresses how proud he is of his daughter and he types that her mom would be proud too, but deletes the last sentence. When he is browsing the news, he gets a video call from his brother, Peter. Peter is trying to make a recipe that was Pam's specialty kimchi gumbo. While David is browsing Pam's files looking for the recipe, Peter asks him about Margot and how their father-daughter relationship is going. Just as Peter is about to dig up further personal questions, his doorbell rings so he has to remind David of sending the recipe immediately before ending the call. While looking for the recipe, Peter comes across a video of Pam making kimchi gumbo with his daughter when she was young. Feeling grief and sadness, David hides the video from his search results. While sleeping, David misses 3 calls from Margot. When he wakes up the next day, he tries to reach his daughter via FaceTime, phone calls, and texts but bearing no result. After his work meeting, David is about to text her when he notices that Margot has left her laptop at home, which is very unusual. He leaves her another voicemail during which he realizes that it's Friday and she is usually at her piano lesson at this time. He calls her piano instructor asking to speak to his daughter, but she says that Margot had stopped attending the class 6 months ago. He is so surprised because he has been sending her money for the lessons every month. Even she admitted that the sessions were great. Feeling worried, he calls her school, who also informs him that Margot hasn't shown up to class that day. As David becomes more anxious, he texts his brother. He suggests that she might have ditched school to go on a trip with her friends. Not knowing any of her friends, David searches for Margot's social media accounts, but they are all private. David logs into the family's old computer through Pam's session. She has been keeping the contacts of Margot's middle school friends in an address book. David dials the number of Isaac's home and the mother picks up instantly, recognizing Mr. Kim. Isaac's mom tells him that it might be a signal problem, since her son and friends went camping, and that Margot was definitely invited. She tells him that they are supposed to come back the next morning. Feeling angry, David chats Margot with a long text, but deletes it and ends up requesting her to call him as soon as she gets reception. The next morning, Isaac calls David and says that Margot never showed up to the trip. She didn't even respond when he tried to reach her. Having lost his daughter, David files a report for his missing daughter. Soon after, Detective Rosemary Vick contacts David, as she has been assigned to his daughter's case. She sympathizes with him as she is also a parent herself and asks him about the chronology. While the detective is understanding the case, David looks up about Detective Rosemary Vick and finds some things about her. She has a son just like she claimed, she's given an award, and she's building a recovery clinic with ex-convicts. David opens Margot's laptop to find her friends list, but her password isn't saved. He tries to use the forgot account feature, but he can't get into her email either. So, he creates a new recovery email and links it to her email, making him able to get in. He then looks at her Facebook friends list and calls one of them. David asks him questions like when he last saw Margot and where he was the night she disappeared, and notes it down into a spreadsheet. He shows it to the detective, who asks David to update her if he learns anything and also to share the spreadsheet with her. And so, David goes through Margot's 289 Facebook friends one by one, asking them the same questions. After making several calls with Margot's recent chats and acquaintances, he realizes that his daughter has been isolating herself and doesn't have any real friends. After going through 2/3 of her friends list, David doesn't learn anything useful and voices his frustrations to Peter. Peter suggests taking a look at her offline friends and activities. Having new leads, David looks through her school files and contacts Abigail, the girl who hosted the study group that night. She says that the study ended by 9 p.m. and Margot had left by then. She also notes that Margot is a loner and used Tumblr a lot. Just as he is checking it, he receives an email from Vick, who shares traffic footage of Margot filling up her gas before leaving the town. He notes down the place on Google Maps. Wanting to find out about Margot's piano lesson money, David checks Margot's bank account and he notices that she has been depositing the money there. However, 6 days prior, she made $2,500 payment to a deleted user via Venmo. Realizing that his daughter is a social media nerd, he checks her Instagram account and notices a user called Derek Ellis constantly posting inappropriate comments on his daughter's pictures. He looks up his number and asks him about his whereabouts the night Margot went missing. He tries to dodge the question, But when David threatens to get the police involved, he admits that he was at a Bieber concert. Detective Vick sends David an email containing a fake ID, revealing that Margot met a forger around the same time she withdrew the money. The detective spoke to the security at Venmo, but the transfer can't be traced and suggests that she might have run away. David refuses to believe it and continues his own investigation. He goes through Margot's most visited websites and finds Ucast, a teenage streaming website. Not knowing what to do, he clicks on Cast Now and ends up starting a live stream. Immediately, a user called Fish and Chips joins the cast and leaves seconds later. David ends the stream and starts looking through Margot's saved live streams. Despite having few watchers, her regular was Fish and Chips. The account initially asked Margot her favorite Pokemon, to which she responded with Uxie, because it can wipe memories. They talked almost every day and Fish and Chips once opened up about her struggles with money to pay her mom's hospital bills as she has a bad tumor. Afterward, David has a call with Detective Vick to report his finding. But, she denies any connection of the Ucast members with Margot's disappearance. In addition, even Fish and Chips had a solid alibi, confirmed by her diner manager and CCTV footage. As David is shutting down Margot's computer, he notices a picture of a lake. He goes on her Tumblr and sees another picture of the same lake. He finds it on Google Maps and realizes where she was going that night. He rushes to the lake and calls the detective, but she's asleep because it's 4 o'clock in the morning. A bit later, she calls him back and David shows her Margot's Pokemon keychain he has found there. The next morning, Margot's disappearance is all over the news. The authorities managed to retrieve her car from the lake, but Margot wasn't in it. Lots of people volunteer to search for Margot in the forest. However, the search gets halted due to heavy rain. On the other hand, the news also results in people flooding the internet with articles and videos, stating that her father and classmates have been neglecting Margot. Upon scrolling, David stumbles upon Derek's inappropriate post. Frustrated by it, David meets him and beats him up. This causes Vick to cut him off from the investigation for being violent. David then comes across a subreddit dedicated to the case, where a bunch of Reddit detectives share their theories. He finds pictures from the car and he notices a Finns hockey hoodie in the front seat. Feeling that he has seen it, David goes through Margot's chats with his brother, Peter. To his surprise, Peter and his nephew were secretly meeting on several nights, and he finds some highly suspicious messages. He starts writing an email to Vick, but decides that he should take the matter personally. So, he goes to his brother's house and plants cameras. He then starts asking Peter about Margot, what kind of relationship they had, and how often they would meet. Irritated by the questions, Peter replies that he has done nothing inappropriate to his nephew. Not believing him, David continues to read their texts out loud. Despite Peter trying to reply, David starts beating his brother up, accusing him of taking advantage of her. He doesn't stop until Peter shouts that they were smoking pot and nothing like David has been thinking. David then ignores a call from Vick and listens to what Peter has to say. He reveals that Margot was suffering after her mother's death. She needed to talk about her mother, which David has never done. She was always reminded of her mother when taking piano lessons, and that's why she stopped doing so. David realizes how little he knew about his daughter and falls weak to the couch. He ends up picking up the detective's call that brings him to the ground crying. Randy Kartoff, an ex-convict, has uploaded an online confession of torturing and murdering Margot, before taking his own life. Margot is declared dead afterwards and Vick closes the case. David starts uploading pictures for a memorial service. Upon seeing the thank you page, David sees a picture of a woman holding flowers. He realizes that it's the same woman that appeared on Margot's live streams under the name Fish and Chips. He searches the profile picture on Google and finds a bunch of pictures of her doing various things. Not realizing that the woman is just a model for stock photos, he tracks down her number and calls her. Of course, she is clueless about the streaming website and all the details that the detective has checked out. David tries to reach Vick, but she doesn't pick up. He then reaches out to the 911 dispatcher who couldn't connect him to Vick directly, but she praises Vick's volunteering for the case. David remembers Vick said that she was assigned to the case and asks the dispatcher to repeat herself twice. But, the dispatcher said that it was done voluntarily as soon as the missing person report was filed. Suspecting Vick, David takes another look at her, opening the same news page he did initially. He notices that one of the ex-convicts next to her is Randy Kartoff, so he asks to be connected to the deputy sheriff. Turns out, Vick has been deceiving David and she got arrested for it. Upon being interrogated, she explains that her son found Margot on the streaming website 6 months ago. He had liked her since grade school, so he made up a fake account under the name Fish and Chips and started talking to her. To get close to her, he made up the story of his mother having a bad tumor, and the kind Margot sent him $2,500 for his mother's made-up hospital bills. He planned to come clean to Margot, but didn't want to do it in public. So, he followed her that night to the lake. As she was getting high, he got into her car and she panicked, before he could explain himself. She tried to run and he accidentally pushed her off a cliff. His mother, Vick, assumed that Margot was dead because the cliff was narrow, jagged and at least 50 feet to the ground. So she decided to take the lead of the investigation, convinced David that Margot ran away and told the law enforcement team that the zone her body was in was already cleared. She still needed a confession to close the case, so she drugged the ex-con, ordered him to read a script and shot him afterwards. Now knowing her location, a team has been dispatched to retrieve Margot. Turns out, she is still alive and makes a full recovery. After the incident, Margot is motivated to enter a music school while their father-daughter relationship mends. In the end, she's accepted her mother's death and is ready to take her piano passion back. Her father, on the other hand, is no longer reluctant about bringing up topics about Pam, and while telling Margot that he's proud of her, he sends the text that he has deleted at the beginning of the movie, that her mom would be proud too. Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to help the channel out. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.